Hi, I'm Gannon, and welcome to my podcast, The Franchise Accelerator. As the founder of the Largo Group, I have provided accounting services with a specialty in the hospitality industry over the last decade. I have prided myself on finding a way to work with my clients, not just where their businesses are today, but working with them to scale. What I've realized over the course of this work, this mission, is that the common challenge for business owners is how to scale. How can you go from one location to many locations if there's just you? This is why we've started the Franchise Accelerator, because inside you is a great idea that can scale. And with the right tools, the right techniques, you too can create a franchise, a brand that's more than just you grinding it out, working 80 hours a week, and sacrificing for your business. You can create a brand that can stand alone and can truly create financial wealth for your family. I'm so excited to be a part of your journey, and I look forward to being with you every week as we join on this adventure together.
Welcome back, listeners. I am so excited for this episode. We are joined by Michael O'Donnell, who has an incredible background and story to tell us. So, Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
So good to be here with the other Ann Gannon. My first Ann Gannon in my life is my cousin in New York. So great to meet another wonderful Ann Gannon.
Yes, well, thank you. And, to introduce you, there's so many facets of what you do. You're a business owner, very successful business owner. You're a guru on sales and as well as the solar industry. So can you start by just, telling us your story?
Well, I tell you what, I was very fortunate to find out that I was good at almost nothing on this planet except for sales, and got the clue of that when I was 12, started working full time as a sales person at 16. When I was in college, I was just looking for my next phone gig and wandered into a solar company that was looking for an appointment setter. And that's what I did. I was in the phone room, smile and dial, making appointments. But I learned the solar industry and the solar pitch. I then became a solar salesperson. So I was selling solar in 1983, and that's kind of before anyone even contemplated the idea, right? Those were solar water heating systems way, way, way before we had solar electric systems. And so, so that's the beginning of me becoming what I call, so I started selling solar again in 2015 when the PV solar had about a 25-year career in the IT industry. Primarily, I was director of sales and VP of sales for big IT companies that were selling their products. That's what I went to college for when I got that job. So I was just looking for a phone job, but I ended up getting introduced to the solar sales idea, and I was taught how to do that, strangely enough, by a bunch of tin men. These guys had been selling aluminum siding. Have you ever seen the movie Tin Men with Danny DeVito?
Oh, yes.
Everybody always brings on the Alex Baldwin memes with the put down that coffee, coffee's for closers. You want to see some real guys throwing some shenanigans around, trying to sell a bunch of stuff so they can afford their brand new Cadillac every year. That would be the movie Tin Men. So aluminum siding salesmen had the same problem solar sales guys do, which is they're trying to say to someone, hey, instead of spending $2,000 painting your house, why don't you spend $8,000 on aluminum siding? And boy, that makes a lot of sense when they value stack and show you all the features and benefits and never paint your house again. It's a much beautiful home that's worth more money. But if you leave the next day, the guy wakes up and he goes, why would I spend $8,000 instead of $2,000 painting my house, right? So solar, similarly, you don't need aluminum siding. You don't need solar. But if you are able to present the features, the benefits, the fact that it's this massive, amounts of benefits, and get the customer to sign up in that same meeting. Why? Because there's no B-backs, right? This is not the meeting about the meeting. This is either the meeting or you're not going to sell them.
Right.
And I knew how to do that from having learned from these guys in the 80s. And I started selling solar in this current era of solar, which is PV solar, electricity generating station solar on your roof. But it turns out I was kind of like in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, right? All these people were trying to sell solar. It's like, I know how to sell solar. And I go to the annual meetings and people are killing themselves trying to sell 1 million watts of solar. And I show up and it's like, I sold 2.5 million watts of solar. And everyone's like, whoa, dude, would you come and tell us how you did that?
Yeah.
So I did a lot of doing that, just kind of being at industry conferences and talking about it. But I've also done that again and again and again and again and again. And in the solar industry, that's $1 million plus income job. And a lot of, people in the business world are curious, like, what in the world's going on with this solar thing?
Yeah.
And it is the wave of the future. It's an extremely lucrative business. We knock on someone's door and in 10-minute conversation, set an appointment to come back the next day and show them, a design and a presentation. We literally capture 30 years of revenue away from a big giant monopoly that was going to bill those people 30, 40, 50, $100,000 for a product. And we snap our fingers, capture that revenue, deliver that to the customer for, $100,000 less than what they were going to already spend. So It makes tremendous amount of sense to the customer. It's a huge ticket item to a consumer. The lead time is literally 24 hours. I meet you today, we sign up and get the project started tomorrow. So it's got some really unique aspects to it. It's really hard to find a big ticket. It's hard to sell a consumer a $70,000 thing that isn't a car or a house.
That's true.
And solar is a $40,000 to $70,000 thing, and it's got literally a 24-hour lead time. And customers are just monumentally, epically better off. They're super excited about the wave of the future. Everybody who buys a solar system is kind of like the first person in your family that had an iPhone. Right. And they're going, oh, look at this thing. So it's really fun to do that. Yeah. It's really fun to help somebody kind of step into the future.
Yeah. No, there's so many things to, break out there. But I guess, taking a step back into the sales process, what are some of the things, because it's hard, I would say, as much as, you say that it's, easy, exciting. I mean, I would say there's a lot of elements to sales that some people, really shy away from. Like, what are the things that you think make a great salesperson?
You want me to tell you the truth?
Yes.
The truth is, the best salesperson in your circle is that person who's a pain in the ass about getting their way. Like everyone's thinking, should we do this? Should we do this? And somehow, like 4 out of 5 times, we end up doing what this guy wants, right? He just kind of has this knack for getting his way. It's kind of hard to teach people that, but I do teach people to do that. When you present something that's super compelling like this, people go, wow, this makes no sense. Almost everyone you present this to goes, whoa, this is a no-brainer. Whoa, how come all my neighbors don't already have this? Like, it's hard to find something to sell. Mm-hmm. Where when somebody sees the presentation goes, oh my God, why doesn't everyone on the street already have this, right? But then the next thought comes, and that thought is, you know what, we're doing this. This is awesome. I'm so glad you're here. You're my guy. Hey, we're just going to need a couple days to think about it. Can you come back on Friday? And then somehow that meeting on Friday almost never happens, right? So then we've got this situation with you and the customer, and there's a lot of techniques to it, but at the end of the day, you're kind of going to have to be a pain in the ass about it happening today for their benefit, by the way. And, it's not like some, car sales guy into the quarter bonus thing. If people don't move forward with solar now, they really are at a massive disadvantage. The government tax credits, which pay for more than a quarter of the system by giving the customer a huge chunk of cash, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, that's going away. The deal with the utilities that make this happen are super beneficial, super favorable, and they will get grandfathered into that. But if they just hesitate a moment, those deals are all changing, and that will go away. And so when we are presented with that idea, we want to do this, but we need to think about it. And when they think about it, leads to 6 months or 6 years, right? They're not going to do this tomorrow. Then we realize that we're doing them a massive disservice. Like, this is not some tiny little issue. What we're confronting homeowners with is not just that they're already spending, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 per year on this thing called energy for their home. The real issue is that normally that doubles. Every 15 years, that price doubles. So if you're spending, $3,000 a year, you could expect to turn that into $3,000 15 years from now, which is a good reason to look at an alternative. But with today's inflation, which is at an unprecedented, scary rate, and the fact that, the government's trying to fix it by raising interest rates and this storm of massively increasing costs for everything. This is not just, wouldn't it be nice to go green and get some, granola slippers and, hug a tree and stuff. We're talking about the fact if you're spending, $4,000 a year for energy, you're going to end up spending $12,000 a year for energy by the end of the decade. We're talking 7 years from now. And that's not me, some solar salesman talking. That's what's happening with today's inflation, creating a new normal. And then you add on top of that the fact that the Green New Deal, the idea is the government's going to tax fossil fuel energy to death. We're going to have our emissions by the end of the decade. We're going to shut down coal by the end of the decade. Energy costs a different amount if you shut down all the coal. And so that's what's happening. Homeowners don't realize it, but they're sitting in a situation where, this could be an existential threat on whether they have the money to live in a 3,000 square foot house. Maybe, the wave of the future is the micro house. We all need to move into some 650 square foot little, walk-in closet. That's the wave of the future. If you like your 3,000 square foot home, you better find a way to lock in what the energy cost for that is, because you can't buy, the answer to transportation is go buy an electric car. Well, by the way, if you buy an electric car and plug it into your house, and the cost of that electricity is the same price as gasoline, which has doubled in the last, year and a half, you haven't saved any money. Not only that, now instead of gasoline powered, you're coal powered.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you haven't helped anybody out. Money's the same. This is probably more emissions than gasoline. So, it's this is really something that people can do. And what I'm trying to do is, have people really learn how to do it effectively, so that they do produce, a very, very lucrative income for them. But more importantly, help homeowners understand this is something they need to do. And then how do you take those techniques and really translate that into any form of business? How do you create the urgency that I just created in that last, 90 seconds of word track?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you create that level of urgency? Like, how do you light a customer's ass on fire?
Yeah.
Right. And you can do that with a compelling presentation. That's what I teach people to do, no matter what.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so interesting to listen to you talk, because I also think you believe in your product so much. I think sometimes sales has that, dirty word of like, I don't want to be a salesperson. But if you really believe that their life is better with your product, then you're helping people. So I think that's an incredible way to show people that.
Yeah, and it's just an extra bonus, and not extra bonus. It makes it epic when you're not only helping a family's finances, but you're helping the local community have an extra 250,000 gallons of water every year that doesn't have to go through a coal plant. You're helping the planet cut down emissions that are truly changing the landscape of the planet. When you're contributing at this huge level, there's an extra level of satisfaction. When I show somebody that this is helpful for them and they do it, I see all of these benefits happening for them and the community and the planet. And it's just this hugely extra, rewarding situation.
Yeah, no, I think it's incredible. So, talk to us a little bit about your role with your company, because you also have a solar company. So what is it like to do both?
Right. Well, it's a lot of work, right? So I'm the vice president of sales for Sunsolar Solutions. We're a company that sells about 20 megawatts of solar every year. So my job every single day is I'm a sales representative for Sunsolar Solutions. So when I'm talking to you about this actual product, and what I'm not talking about, back in the day, I used to do this. I'm knocking on doors and in presentations literally all the time. So, and then on top of that, I have two partners, and, managing a company that's growing this fast is, that's tremendous amount to do as well. But what I truly love doing is helping people get to a point where they've discovered how to do this. That's the big industry meeting last year. There were 26 guys in the whole country, 26 guys in the whole country that got on stage to get one of those awards. That's a Golden Door Award, right? And that's for selling 1 million watts of solar. The reason I'm well known and wrote a book is I've sold 2 to 2.5, 3 million watts of solar every year, literally 2 or 3 times what's the benchmark for, just unbelievable results. So, but what I'm more proud of than that is that we had 7 guys on that stage last year that all got their start in solar, that are all selling solar and are doing that well, because we know how to teach people how to do this at a super high level, get them on stage. So that's 25% of the entire awards in the whole industry. And they work for my company. There's literally thousands of solar companies. So that's a statement to the fact of when selling solar sells itself, but it's a lot easier to sell it if you know how. And that's what where our expertise is that. And then also building a company that was designed to be a company that makes salespeople of that caliber perform at this, unbelievable level.
Yeah. Now, how do you take someone who doesn't know a lot about selling, or, maybe you see some potential in them? What are some of the things that you do to develop someone into this, greatness that you have on stage?
Well, it's funny even if I know people who would be terrific at this, when I tell them about it, we get to a point in the conversation where they just hang up on it. So when I first got into solar and they're like, man, dude, O'Donnell, we've heard he's crushing the planet. He's, making crazy money. What's he doing? He's doing solar. They call me up and I'm like, man, yeah, it's awesome. It's the wave of the future, super lucrative, blah, blah, blah. I'm making this 7-figure gig. And yet, come on, let's try this out. Oh, that's awesome. How do you get your appointments? Oh, no problem. All we do is knock on doors. Click. And it's over, man. Like, the conversation is over. So how do you find out? It doesn't even matter if you're any good at this, unless you're able to get yourself to go out and get the appointments. And the way that happens is, unfortunately or fortunately for me, I guess, because I'm reasonably good at it. I was a telemarketer for years, right? And what I was doing in that solar company in 1983 was setting appointments for the closer to come.
Wow.
And now telemarketing is just so screwed up. You really can't do it over the phone. Those guys have just kind of blown that whole thing up. So we're literally going door to door, and we say, hey, you own a home. You're going to spend $100,000 on this commodity. Any chance we could get you an alternative quote? And hey, by the way, we'll even buy you dinner at the Cheesecake Factory if you have us over, right? So we're literally going door to door going, hey, would you take a look at this thing? When people find that out, they're like, So even if someone is a talented closer and a good salesperson, there's a real good chance this isn't going to be for them, because somehow they view this as below them. I did. When I switched over from the IT world to solar, and I was out there knocking on doors and a door-to-door salesman, which, I still don't want to say door-to-door salesman, but for 2 years, I didn't update my LinkedIn page. Like, people had to find me because I just disappeared. And I wasn't anxious to tell them that I was a door-to-door sales guy. We're not selling solar door-to-door, but we are acquiring the appointments by getting in a neighborhood where we already have customers and going, hey, do you know the Jones? They used to pay $3,000 a year. Now they pay $2,000 a year, and they've got this, future all figured out. And the government gave them $16,000 and didn't cost them any money. That's the thing with solar. It doesn't cost any money. None of your money. Literally. None of your money. You don't pay any money, and all of a sudden you have a solar system. Then the government hands you $15,000, which is for the down payment. So there's no upfront cost. The government makes the down payment. Oh, and by the way, if you want to take that $15,000 to Vegas, be our guest. You can take that money, do anything you want with it. But then at the same time, then the customer who has a solar system every month, instead of him taking money out of his bank account, he just takes the money out of the envelope that he was going to send to the utility company, and he puts it into a different envelope for the solar company. Only issue is there's going to be an extra $50 to $100 left over. And, is there anything you can do to help us to figure out something to do with that extra $50 to $100, right? and most people are pretty good at that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what's amazing, though, I think, in what you've been able to do is I feel like, whatever business you're in, I think everyone thinks marketing is all on a phone, right? Or sending an email blast, or, and kind of missing the point.
Or we're going to network.
Right.
I'm going to network by might of heaven. Yeah.
No, and they miss the fact that at the end of the day, you have to find your customer where they are and get in front of them and really go old fashioned. And I think, we deal that with a lot of businesses now where it's like, what do you do for advertising? Oh, I have Facebook ads. Well, what about the people who aren't on Facebook? Right? Like, we have to find everybody out there.
And by the way, we do Facebook ads and we do direct. I spend $1 million a year on marketing, but the customer acquisition cost is about $2,000.
Wow.
Or I can go out for 3 hours and have 4 people say, well, yeah, sure. Why don't you come back and show me that? And have 2 or 3 of them buy it. And my lead acquisition cost was 0. Right. And then that $2,000 goes to me as the salesperson.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons that solar is so lucrative. If you use your time and your skills and your initiative to just go talk to a homeowner and go, hey, can we get you an alternative quote for this monopoly thing? God, it's got to be better than monopoly. And they go, yeah, sure. Nope, nothing to lose. Sure. Show me a thing. For some reason, that takes about $2,000 to make that happen on Facebook.
Right.
Right. Or direct mail or whatever those things are. And it takes about a half an hour of my time. But here's the downside. I tell people this is going to sound really crude, but if I told you had to walk around picking up dog poop with your hands for 2 hours a day and you'd make $1 million, would you do it? Right. Well, knocking on doors sounds worse than that to most people. As it just does. And that's because if you were to go to a dance and knock on 30, talk to 30 people and 28 of them said no, no, you're ugly, man, that would be an awful experience, right? You'd be feeling all this rejection and personally just hurt. And when you're out knocking doors, if you take it personal, it's going to feel like that. It feels bad to have 28 people say no. But the 2 people that said yes, and one of them turned into $5,000 in income. Yeah. If you were to go to that same dance and 2 people said yes, and one of them turned out to be the love of your next, 3 weeks of your life, you probably think, wow, that dance thing was pretty good. I got to go back to another dance. And so if you can see the results of talking to getting told no 28 times and kind of steel yourself for how to get yourself to do it, that's the big problem. That's really what's hard. People are not doing it. So every salesperson on planet Earth, and that's really the idea of the book. I was going to call the book Get One No. One No. Get One No. And it ended up being called No Matter What for a lot of other reasons. And it's just this powerful thing that I do every day, no matter what. I'm on a call every single day at 8:00 in the morning, no matter what. I'm leading a mastermind every single day. And you're talking to the worst morning guy on planet Earth. When I had this idea, you know what? I just need to have this mastermind call every day at 8:00. I got to get these guys and gals together and we all got to get ourselves started. The problem solar guys have, and all straight commission 1099 people have, is that they're still in their pajamas at 11:00 in the morning. And you're probably not going to have a very productive day if you're still in your pajamas at 11:00. So I had this idea. I'm going to have this mastermind call every single day at 8:00 in the morning. And the other part of my brain said, oh, hell no. I'm not doing that. I've now been doing that for about 4 years straight. That gets me started when everyone's on the call. I said, this is really just an elaborate scheme to get me productive by 8:00 in the morning on Zoom every day. But there's this idea, if you do this certain little tiny things, if you make a no matter what commitment to doing the smallest possible task, like getting one no, if you'll get onto the turf and get one no every single day, that sounds weird, but if you did that, by the way, you'd have quite a few sales in a year. The issue is once you're out on the turf and you've got one no, and you've given your business card to a homeowner, and then you see the guy across the street pulling up in the SUV getting groceries out, you're like, I'm already here. I can go talk to that person. Now you're at 2. What we're trying to do is start a manic episode, right?
Yeah.
If I were to say, Ann, would you come help me in the garage? And we're just going to lift this box up and put it, the garage is a wreck. Don't worry. Don't look at the wreck. Just come help me put this box up. And oh, by the way, now that we're here, would you grab the hammers and put them into the toolbox? And like 2.5 years later, they're sending in 2.5 days later, they're sending out a search party. We got to get Ann and Mike out of this garage. They're at Home Depot buying plastic organizing tubs. And, that's a manic episode that all got started by saying, hey, would you help me pick this up and put it away? So that's what we're looking to do, is create momentum. Honestly, it's really all about momentum. If you can direct momentum, cause momentum to happen, and then direct the outcome of momentum at an effort that causes this kind of compensation, that's how you're going to make $1 million income.
Yeah. But those are such great life lessons for whatever you do.
They are.
I mean, just first, that there's no getting around it, right? Like if you want the big result, you have to do it. And it's not going to be fun sometimes. Yep. And, just the idea that all you need is that one incremental step forward. Every day. And
can you imagine if every salesperson's essentially getting paid for prospecting? They all are doing something else at every moment of the day. But at the end of the day, a salesperson is being paid to have a conversation with someone who's not doing business with their company, and to say, hey, would you consider doing business with my company? Let me get you a proposal for doing business with my company. For every conversation you have with someone who's not already a customer or a prospect, that's called cold calling.
Yeah.
And what salespeople really get paid for is cold calling. And at this moment, there's such a small fraction of actual salespeople doing actual cold calling that it's frightening. We all end up trying to network our way to heaven, right? I'm going to talk to people I know as opposed to people I don't know that don't know my company. And honestly, though, that's where the money is. I've had jobs where I had this spurt of cold calling in the first 3 weeks that I worked, had a very successful next 2 or 3 years, and I could trace 100% of the business I did to those first 3 weeks of cold calling. So why didn't I do another 3 weeks of cold calling?
I know. I agree, because I think we stop too quickly too. I mean, I think what we see a lot, dealing with business owners mostly, is the idea that, that marketing isn't really part of what they do. Like maybe they have an outsourced person who does marketing, or I have a person who does marketing, but they're not actively involved in marketing. I think there's so much fear there that you don't want, your customer to reject you, or maybe they're not interested. And so the minute they get a no, it's just like, oh, I need to stop the marketing. It's a waste of money. And
see, I told you this was going to be horrible.
Right. When in reality, like you said, how much it costs you to get a new customer. And I think whatever business you're in, you have to know the dollars it costs to get the customer. And that's what you need to spend every month on different things that work or don't work.
Right.
But it's a non-negotiable.
Right. And I found the secret, by the way. The secret was to pay myself and to pay salespeople for what actually creates the money. And it's not being some God's gift to closing and obviously having a high closing ratio is, and that's a huge piece of what we're talking about. But what salespeople are really paid the money for is doing the work. The money's for the work. And what's the work? The work is talking to the 7 people who say no to get to the 1 person who says yes. And those are my numbers. Somebody brand new probably going to talk to 15 people and have 14 of them say no, and 1 of them says yes. Now they have an appointment. If they're terrible, 1 out of 3 of those appointments is going to turn into a sale. If they're awesome, 2 out of 3 of those appointments are going to turn into a sale. And my partner and I often have go on runs of 10 in a row. Like people look at solar and they go, it just doesn't make sense to not do it. Right. So the money, if I take that, 7, if I have those 8 conversations and 7 say no, 1 says yes, and I make this much money and I divide it by those conversations and what percent bought, turns out I'm making about $300 every time somebody says no. If I can understand that, internalize it, and move it from one pocket to the other, if you and I were in a truck and I said, Ann, you're in my solar truck with the big Go Solar, Sunsolar Solutions blaze down the side, and there's a guy in his, in his garage, and he's sitting there wrenching on his, his little motorbike or whatever that thing is, and I said, Ann, go walk up to that guy and say, hey, there's no chance you want a solar quote, is there? And he goes, no, I don't want to. Thank you very much. That's all I'm asking you to do. You come back and I'm going to hand you $300. Could I get you to do it?
Yes.
Right? Could you get yourself to say, no, I can't do that?
Right.
You'd be like, bam, you'd be out of that truck. So be bam, you'd be out of that truck. You'd be running up the driveway going, dude, hey, no chance you want solar, is there? Awesome. Thanks a lot. I got the no. Yay. Come back to the truck, $100, $200, $300. You'd be go, can I do another one? Can I do another one?
Yeah.
Can I do another one? So that's how to get yourself to do something that's literally almost impossible.
Yeah. No, that is such good advice. And I think, business owners, it's good to think about your team too, because, no one on your team likes rejection. But if we can find a way to just make it, like you said, it's all towards the good part, right? Like you have to get the rejection to get the good part too.
That's it. We got to get to the part we don't want. We got to go around with a pooper scooper and get the stuff we don't want, so we get the stuff on the other side that we do want.
Yes. Well, this is great. I mean, it's been so fascinating to talk to you, and I think there's so many lessons in sales. I feel like business, it's hard to really think of yourself as a salesman, but if you're a business owner, you're a salesman or woman, right? You have to be selling your business every day. So what are some of the things that are next on your horizon? Where do you go from here?
Well, I tell you what, there's about 3 million homes that have solar in the United States. In order for the United States to get to its climate goals, objectives, we've got to get to about 30 million homes that'll be solar by the end of the decade, which is super important because fossil fuels are literally going to not only double, but triple in that time. All you got to do is read the stuff that the government's done. The government's always pretty forthcoming about what it's doing. You just got to listen, right? Mm-hmm. When they tell you they're going to cut fossil fuels in half by the end of the decade, you should start making preparations for fossil fuels to do that and be a lot more expensive. So what I'm doing is building a company and building a platform and also creating a training platform that can literally mechanize the training so that, I see an army of people out there helping 30 million people go solar. So we're in the process of building that army and in the process of kind of building that whole, game plan, battle plan out. And we're just getting started. We've been in business about 7 years and we've got 8,000 people that have already gone solar with us. And that's turned into a pretty substantial business, but, we see this as literally the vanguard of getting the thing done that the planet needs done the most. And we're excited to be doing it.
It's incredible. No, it's so amazing to speak to you. I truly appreciate you taking the time. If people want to learn more about you, where do they find you?
So they just go to my social media, which is Michael O'Donnell Sales, Michael O'Donnell Sales. And that'll bring up all sorts of these types of podcasts and content and all that sort of stuff. You can also go to my website to get the book on Amazon.com, which is No Matter What, WATT. But you can also go to my website, which is modsalesacademy.com. And there's the training, there's the book, there's the whole 9 yards and a way to, get a hold of me directly. Or you can just DM me, go onto my social media, Michael O'Donnell Sales, and send me a message. And, I got, always have time to talk to people that are interested in what's going on in my industry. And especially you, this was a wonderful opportunity to get to share it with someone who's not really been through it 100 times. I'm normally with people who are, neck deep in solar. No. So it's nice to talk to someone.
You've just educated a lot of people on solar. So.
Right.
That's awesome. But yes, thank you so much for taking the time again. And we wish you all the best.
100%. Thank you. I can't wait to talk again, Ann.